This is my update on Kurt Busch pulling the double, and I really want to talk about the class he showed in his interview after falling out of the race at Charlotte with engine failure, or a big time blown engine. But in his interview, he thanked everybody from his IndyCar team, the Stewart-Haas team, and this seems to be the new Kurt Busch within the over last season and the first part of this season. If you think back to Martinsville last year when he had the hard crash in the Furniture Row car and went ahead and did an interview. Now, I would not have blamed Kurt Busch if he told him, hey, it was a hard hit, there was a fire. If I asked him about an interview, say, hey, I want to go in the holler, go in the lounge and relax. You couldn't blame him. I mean, it was a hard hit, fire, worst fear of any race driver is fire. Almost any race driver will tell you that. Luckily, when he crashed, it busted the radiator and put out the fire. They thought it was on board fire extinguisher. Later learned that it was the busted radiator that put out the fire. But he was not running very good that day. He was some laps down, as I remember. But I was really impressed with Kurt Busch last night in the 600. Of course, three of the Hendrick engines, two in the Stewart-Haas car, and Earnhardt Jr. in the Hendrick car had engine problems, although Jr. was able to soldier on the 19th place finish, frankly, thanks to Steve Letarte. We're going to miss him. This is just a little sidebar. We're going to miss him next year. I was, as I do most every race, monitoring the radio on the track pass race view of Dale Jr. And Steve Letarte made the call. The water pressure went up, made the call to bring the car in the pits, fix a water pressure problem. And while it was down on power, I was watching the speed, which I can do on raceview. For some reason, the RPMs weren't working. I couldn't tell if the RPMs were down or not. But lost 3 laps, got one back in a pit stop exchange where he could actually stayed out while the leaders pitted, and was frankly passing some pretty good cars. As I can see who he passes on that if I follow him. But yeah, but Charlotte, the World 600. I'm sorry, I'm old school. It's the Coca-Cola 600. I know that, but I'm old school. But it's rough on engines. They turn more RPMs at night, and it's rough on valve trains. As Jeff Hammond did a fine job of explaining. That's usually where it starts. Kurt went down a cylinder. Danica Patrick went down a cylinder, and the engines eventually blew up. And I actually think that Earnhardt Jr. had a different problem with water pressure, but that's just become my take. But yeah, I mean, I was impressed with Kurt Busch's interview because he is not the favorite interview. You can search YouTube for Kurt Busch Rageaholic or Uncensored Radio Chatter, or Kurt Busch goes off on Doc Punch, whatever you can search. But and I hope he's turning the new leaf. He seems to be. I mean, he can drive anything. He proved that at Indianapolis yesterday. It's just been my take for what it's worth.